I think it's good evening for you. So welcome you all to the webinar. And today we're going to talk about how virtual events are basically shaping the future, not just for the event industry, but also for large brands, and how the entire shift to the new normal and the adoption to virtual events is taking place. And we'll also be talking about tips for the event organizers, event companies, and how exactly they can help their brands or their customers adopt the new digital and virtual. And we're going to also have a walkthrough of the platform Ethereum On Air, which is the virtual event platform. And this is a 30 minutes webinar, which would be followed with webinar would be a panel discussion, moderated panel discussion, and it would be followed with a presentation of Ethereum On Air, which would be a 15 minutes presentation, and then we can have a round table wherein we will take up questions from the audience. So guys, feel free to drop your questions on the comment box here on the right side. We will take it up one by one, and I'd like to first welcome the guests. Hi, Malcolm. Thank you so much for joining in, and good evening to you.
Hi, Aditi. Thanks very much. Good to see you.
Yeah. For the audience, Malcolm is the managing director of Dynamic Events and Conferences. They do a lot of events across the globe, and these are all bespoke events. And they have the privilege of going to exotic locations and doing large-scale events. So good to have you on the show, Malcolm. And with me, I have Sid. He's the CEO of WebSpiders and also the product director of Ethereum Live. Sid comes from the experience of leading event teams. And he's been at the forefront of events from almost 20 years now. And Sid is not just a speaker, but also collaborates on various events as exhibitor, sponsor, and also as an attendee. I think Sid loves to be at the confluence of events and tech. So thanks, Sid, for joining in. Anirban is leading marketing efforts for WebSpiders Group. He's the content lead in marketing. So Anirban is the guy who takes care of all the campaigns that you see that goes around events and other efforts, all the products, services, and events that we do. Guys, welcome. Right. So just to, get the ball rolling, Sid, I have a question for you and Malcolm to start with. And the very first question from my end would be, in this pandemic, it's this pandemic, the situation is currently showing businesses and communities that the new normal is virtual events. So they are, however, they are missing their events in person, but there is also a momentum, to shift and to adopt to the new normal, to go virtual. So these businesses and communities are really missing their in-person events. The experience that you have when you visit a booth or an agenda, you maybe use a mobile app or you walk around the floor, you meet people. So that in-person experience is completely missing here. But then, what is the feedback that you get from your existing customers? What do you think is their reaction to this current scenario? Do they have a worry? Do this? How are they taking it? Can you share some bits on that, Malcolm?
Yeah, I think that everyone is finding it very difficult to adjust. And I was discussing with Sid earlier about different types of industry are slower than other types of industry to adapt to the virtual world. Some are very cautious and some are less cautious. But in the main, I think we are seeing a massive pickup now of people realizing that this COVID is not going to go away and that the new norm for some considerable time in the future is going to be virtual. And they have to grasp that and start actually communicating with customers, with their staff, with whoever is important to them on a virtual platform. And I think that's what we're going to see, certainly over the next 6 months, is a massive increase in demand for virtual platforms and virtual conferences.
Absolutely.
Sure. Sid, what would be your take on
yeah,
that?
sort of
echoing so much.
Echoing Malcolm, yeah, absolutely. I think people are going through different forms of acceptance. I think in March and April there was denial that things are going to go back, and I think by May, I think the acceptance started to creep in that we need to adapt. And then, of course, right now I think there is no debate. We are almost certainly seeing nearly more than 75% of the people pivoting to virtual. I mean, I read today that Consumer Electronics Show, the CES, they've already decided to go virtual for Jan 2021.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we are pretty much now seeing the acceptance phase of the transformation. So while it might be sounding a bit painful that they have to forcefully accept, but as a vendor of a virtual event platform, what we are seeing is that our customers are coming back. They're doing more events. In fact, they're doing sometimes smaller events more frequently, or they're holding up to their original agenda once they've seen the success of the first event. And that's something that nobody expected. And so now, for everyone, we started doing our virtual events, from May onwards. So we did our first one in May, and we've been doing every week since then. We've been hosting virtual events, and these are large scale, medium sized to large events. And our customers are saying that, even when things get normal, they could not justify entirely 100% in-person event. There are cost justification, from a green perspective, being conscious about the environment, being conscious about cost, about productivity. So I think what we are seeing is like the digital twin. I think we are seeing this phenomenon everywhere, that you're going to have a digital twin of an event. So it would almost be expected that an event has a digital twin where you can choose a combination of experiences and data flows seamlessly from the digital to the physical and physical to the digital. I think that's the biggest learning of the acceptance and the enjoyment, which was not actually expected initially.
Absolutely. I think this is the way to be, and I think that would also in the coming months. I think Sid and Malcolm and Anirban, I think this is going to be there. This paradigm shift is going to show momentum in the coming months as well. And we are also seeing the hybrid model coming up. That brings me to my next question. Do you see your clients talking about the hybrid model, because that's the model which is here to stay? And we think that virtual events are starting out as an alternative to in-person. So what is your take on that? Malcolm, over to you.
Yeah, for sure, hybrid is going to be the way forward. There's no doubt about it. We're already seeing people booking those events now. We've got a couple lined up within the next few months, in fact. So as countries begin to free up their people so that they're not so tightly locked down, and you can actually then get people into a live stadium, live event, you're going to see more and more of the hybrids coming in with the people who can travel to the hotels or whatever, going there, and then all the rest of the people joining on the platforms and building up the bulk from that. I think what it seems to be is that you're getting a small select group in the stadium, so maybe 50, 75 people, and then 1,000, 2,000 people on the platform.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sid, what's your take on this? Because I think you are already doing hybrid events, right? So I'm
Yeah,
sure there are a
yeah.
lot of inquiries coming in.
I think at the moment, people. I mean, we've already agreed for a 2021 fall event to have the virtual. I mean, at the moment, I think people are entirely preoccupied getting virtual. But for people who are even planning as early as now for next year, especially fall next year, or they're already having the virtual added on. So right from a simple RTMP feed to have the cameras, get into something like a vMix or a Wirecast and stream to RTMP, right from that to using the mobile apps, so that the people at home or people in their offices are using the desktop, and people at the event are using the apps, with the view to have a, let's say, integrated poll or an integrated chat or an integrated gamification experience. So we were definitely already seeing people who are planning, because again they're de-risking as well. They don't know what's going to happen. So if they announce an event and for some reason it cannot be held, then at least they have the virtual to get back to. And I think I agree with Malcolm. I think it would be hard for, say, a company to justify 3,000 people flying in when you could do with 500 people flying in. I think right now so many sectors are under stress, and the last thing you want is $20 million spent on a town hall event or something like that. I think budgets would be reviewed, especially travel budgets, uh, and it would be hard to justify, say, flying from LA to Boston for a 1 hour conference, right? And that was so normal. I think pre-COVID, it was. I'm guilty of that. I'm like an event junkie, attending events every month as an exhibitor, but also as a visitor. Sometimes just for fun, to be honest. Even though I had to give a reasonable explanation to the CFO, but you attend South by Southwest, you have more fun than anything else, and places like Austin, and you have a great time. And of course, we will miss that. The fact of you checking into hotels and traveling, and the food and things like that. But yeah, the core KPIs or the core benefit of the event, I think the absolute surprise is that that's actually even better virtual. Just the core component. Of course, the surrounding benefits are not there: travel, food, free drinks, so and so forth. But the core benefits, it's just there's no compromise in virtual.
And also,
So
once
Sid,
you've got that
yeah,
imbalance
Malcolm.
around the world, people who are with the COVID disease spreading in different areas, and it's affecting some countries more than others, you're never going to know for sure where you can hold an event. You might find that it's free in Europe for a while, but then comes back, and it's free in America for a while and then comes back. And so you're always going to get that feeling that, oh, we can't travel to a country in case I get stuck there, or I can't get back to my own country. So by holding a hybrid event, you can actually hold it in one area, and then it's safe for you. And everybody else can join on the platform. They don't have to travel. So as Sid said, there's no cost involved then to join.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's where it's going for the time being anyway.
And no, that's a great point, Malcolm. I'll just add that, the anti-vaxxers, there's a whole group of people who, even after the vaccines come out, they need to be convinced, they need to be persuaded to take the vaccine. And based on which country, I was amazed that I was actually reading the article by Sarah Gilbert from Oxford University, who's one of the front runners in the vaccine development. And she said that, and they did the survey where up to 40 to 70% are anti-vaxxers. They don't believe in vaccination for a lot of reasons. And her view was that you should not forcefully vaccinate people. So developing the vaccine is one hurdle. And then convincing everyone to take the vaccines is another hurdle. So you got two phases here. And so that's something that nobody is at the moment factored in. People just think that the vaccine will come out today, and within a month, the whole world will be vaccinated. So we're looking at two sort of milestones here.
Yeah.
Sure, Sid. I agree, and I think that 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 is a very valid point which Malcolm made. That you really don't know what would happen next, and when you're traveling, when you're at these events, you really don't know. You think that you're safe, but the situation might be different. So thanks for that, Malcolm. That's very interesting. True. Anirban, I have a very interesting question for you. You've been doing a lot of webinars so far for WS, and you've also been a part of multiple webinars across. And you keep seeing formats. As a marketing person, you're quite aware of what sort of content runs on these webinars and how these are different from virtual events right now. So my question to you is, how different are webinars from virtual events? Or how different are virtual events from the age-old traditional webinars that we've been having so far?
I didn't unmute myself, which is, I think, a once a day thing. So, uh, to answer your question, I think the biggest difference, and I wouldn't say it's a difference, I would say that virtual events are the evolution of the webinar. the webinar is the prototype. It's where it's something that's been happening for a long time and people are familiar with, and that's the seed. But a virtual event is so much more that the webinar is, you could say, a part, a percentage fraction of what a virtual event is. And a virtual event to a webinar is what an in-person event to a session. So you go to an event to have a session, webinar, but then you don't go to an event just to attend one single session and just walk out. You go to an event to A, learn, and B, to some people that's more important, which is to network. And then there are ancillary benefits as well. But I believe that learning and networking kind of go hand in hand if networking isn't more important for you. And again, the third element for it, I would say, is the exhibitors, where you go to test new products in your field and learn about new technologies and understand and see what's happening in your industry. So webinars, while webinars are powerful learning tools, they don't address the networking side of events. They don't address the learning about the new technology side of things. So virtual events are kind of stepping up to the plate to provide that complete in-person experience by providing a space for exhibitors, a space for networking, a space for all of those things that webinars simply cannot provide. So it's the evolution. It's the next step, and it's something that has to happen if we have to have a shot at replicating the in-person event experience on virtual. That's my view of it.
Absolutely, and that's very important for us to also understand as event organizers or event planners. And Malcolm, I'm sure coming to you, you've been doing events as well across the globe. You guys do events for when we talk of events, you guys do webinars as well. We've been doing that. I mean, we spoke to Claire also in the beginning today, and we heard that there are multiple webinars that she's been part of. So what is your experience when it comes to webinars, and how different are they from virtual events that you've seen right now?
Yeah, I think that what we're seeing, what's being reported from our clients, is that there's an element of what we call Zoom fatigue. And that translates to webinar fatigue in a way. I think people aren't very excited by it anymore. To start with, it was all very new and great. You could see all these people on the screen when you've been in lockdown, but now they've got bored of it and they need more, and they need a true experience. And I think platforms like E2M are actually providing that. You're providing an exhibition hall, collaboration rooms, round tables, all these different functions that fit towards a proper conference. So you can actually go along, you can listen to the plenary, and you can go and have a chat with a breakout group. You can go in and see exhibitors, and it creates a whole new experience for everybody. So if you do experience fatigue, if you're fed up of listening to the guy in plenary, you can go off to the exhibition hall and go and see your favorite supplier, or you can go to the round tables and have a chat with somebody else who's also fed up of listening to the plenary. So it's a bit like, I guess, going out and having a coffee break. When you're actually in a live conference, it's the same sort of thing, but on your platform. And that is where we seem to be heading now, that people are getting so fed up with Zoom and Teams and things.
Yeah.
And do you want to come in there? I think
yeah,
you have some
I like what Malcolm mentioned about, if you're tired of the panelists, you can go off, and that's actually so relevant that I just want to point out one micro feature that we implemented. So you can see on your right, there is a volume button right at the bottom, on the bottom right. There's a volume button, and you'll be amazed that not a single webinar platform has that. You can go and compare it to, so you can mute yourself, you can switch on your volume for the entire laptop, right? But you cannot mute the session only. So what happens is that what we noticed was that in a 2-hour keynote session, as everything is on your phone or on your laptop, you're going to get a Skype call, you're going to want to perhaps watch a Netflix quickly for complete your TV show while a boring speaker is on. Hopefully that's not me. And I said that you need a volume button, and we saw every platform. None of them have a volume button that can only switch out, lower the volume of that session, not the entire machine. But coming to a larger point, Aditi, Malcolm, everybody, is that we are doing so many virtual events where there are no webinars. Like just a call before this, we are doing where it's entirely roundtables. So I think a webinar is just one session. Many of our events initially were like 3 or 4 hours. Now most of them are 2 to 3 days. Now imagine having a Zoom call. You would need like a 20 links. And so that's just one of the format. So many of our events, for example, the one we did for BCRF, they had a live stream entertainment, right? Plus the video. So it was a pre-recorded video streamed as live, right? Attendees talking to each other, that's really critical. In a webinar, you don't even know who are the attendees. Their attendees are networking, they're requesting a meeting. And of course, as an exhibit hall, you're also having a video chat with them. But it's something that webinars could be a component of the event, but an event has at least 9 more things that you can do. And I think over the last 15 minutes, I'll just share a quick 10-step guide on what you can do that. But even if you compare to the traditional webinar platforms, you can see how easy this is. You don't need any plugin, you don't need any downloads, and it's integrated into your video web experience. So there are tons of technology, small things, and I think it's a no-brainer considering the fact that I think some people fear that, okay, what's the difference? But very quickly people even stop asking about the differences. Of course, from a cost perspective, they are at poles apart. You can get webinar systems at very, very reasonable or literally zero cost today. So it's what you want. It's the objective. Sometimes if you just want a 1-hour discussion, and you don't want the attendees to engage, you don't want branding, you don't want a sense of your own community, then you can choose any webinar software. You don't need a virtual event platform. It would be an overkill. It would be nice, but it would be an overkill from a cost perspective. Yeah, you're on mute, Aditi, I think. Sorry, you're on mute. Yeah.
So I agreed, Sid. I was saying that it all comes down to what exactly is needed by the event organizer.
Yeah.
I need. So if it's a 1-hour matter or if it's a 3-day matter, that's what comes here. Cool. So brings me to my next question, guys. And I would want to ask Malcolm first. Malcolm, you do a lot of exotic location-based events. So there must be a lot of high-scale entertainment that's happening during events, right? When we have to bring in the entertainment factor, because we all know that entertainment plays a huge part of events, in-person events, and there's always some track or the other, whether it's a jamming session or it's a breakout session to do with any cultural performance or anything. It could be even a DJ night for that matter towards the end, like a cocktail night. So how do you bring up these entertainment tracks within virtual events? Do you have a formula for that? What are the questions that you've been getting from your customers, and how do you intend to give it the experience of entertainment within a virtual platform?
It's not a straightforward answer, unfortunately, because every single customer is very, very different. And we have to do it on a very bespoke basis. So we are looking at the demographic of the people involved on the platform. We're looking at what type of industry they're in, what their expectations are, a whole raft of different questions to ask people about this. And personally, I think there is a place for entertainment, but it's a very different world when you're on a platform like this to when you're actually seeing a live show. So my view is always, well, okay, there's got to be a reason for doing it. It's got to be either to try and wake people up, if you like, putting it at its most basic, or it's got to be for helping with networking. Sorry about that, guys.
No problem.
So yeah, what we're finding is that we are trying to educate our customers to say to them, right, come on, guys, don't just put it in for the sake of it. Think about why you want to put this entertainment in, where you want to put it in, and then we work around that to say, okay, well, the type of entertainment that's going to work to enhance networking could be a cocktail session or just some music to chill people out a bit. But generally, I try and keep it to a minimum. It seems to be a difficult area to deal with in the main. You can't just throw something in and expect people to like it.
So absolutely. So I think it's always a bespoke solution depending on the client requirements. So, Sid, what's your take on that?
Yeah. So what we've seen, especially in the large sort of, when I say large multi-day events, we are seeing the pattern where people are not necessarily logged in for the entire day. They log in the morning, they bookmark sessions that they want to be in, and they keep coming back and forth across the day. That's what the analytics are showing. And I think some of these entertainment, so we have the stage concept where it automatically plays the entertainment. So we are seeing that these companies are using. So we had a DJ night, for example, that's really popular for the cocktail hour. We are seeing music performances. We are seeing a mentalist coming in. We are seeing magic shows happening. And again, it's of course dependent on the kind of event. But one way is that we are also collecting a database of such performers, because as you know, the entertainment industry is really hit hard. Many of these artists and performers are not getting gigs for a while, and they're plunging into their savings now. So we've been doing referrals, and the good part is there are a lot of sort of websites where you can hire at not too much cost people to perform for you. Multiple things. It could be a cooking lesson, for example. So if you have a large event with, say, a couple of thousand people, or if you have a large expo with 20,000 people, 30,000 people and beyond, there'll be so many focus groups. And by having these things, you make sure that they come back. Because with these events, the fact is you have to keep calling them back. They're going to go off for lunch or for a break or things like that. And that's why the companion mobile app helps to keep bringing them back into the event. And like a major celebrity keynote or an entertainment definitely helps them come back. And as well, I think as a side thing, if you're helping that industry, it's a good cause, and it sort of builds in the whole element of an event. You don't expect to be entertained in Zoom. I think the last thing in your mind is to to get relaxed. I think no matter what you're seeing on Zoom, you don't get relaxed. But events, there's a big component. I remember the first event I did in my life as in a big event, overseas event, was in Vegas, Comdex, if you remember, in year 2000, November. That was my first time in the country. And, I had done lots of events in different parts of the world, but seeing Comdex in Vegas, it just blew your mind to a level that you cannot understand, the kind of entertainment you had. And, it was just unbelievable. It was like the major shock that you can have. So I think entertainment is still a big part of large events and large employee conferences, and it's possible.
Sure, sir. And I think you can also have the content live as well as on demand. So the artist can basically record it and you can plug it in on the platform. I think that's something that is very useful for the planners. Possibly.
I
All right.
just I just want to say add something to this, because I kind of agree with both Sid and Malcolm here in that uh, the thing about entertainment here is that what Malcolm just said, that is there a point to it? Is there a value to it? That struck a note in my head because I'm born and bred digital. My marketing has always been digital. So as far as I have seen, is that digital is measurable and virtual is measurable. So why I want to talk about this is that even for entertainment or any session, the advantage that virtual has is that if you have an entertainment session, it becomes much easier for you to measure on a virtual platform exactly what it's bringing to the table. So even if you're entertained, even if you're talking about entertainment or a session or any feature of it, my view is that the the whether you do it or not is obviously, as Malcolm said, is there a point? But whether there is a point or not becomes much easier to decide on a virtual platform than an in-person event. For something like engagement, or whether it hooks people, or whether people are coming in to see that. So I think that's one of the benefits of the virtual platform over the over everything else. I just had to interject here because I'm a digital person, and for me, digital is like measurable.
Yeah. So one thing that we are adding in a roadmap, just you guys would like that, is that the entertainment actually comes with a live bubble of video of all the people who are watching that. So what it allows you to is bond with other attendees, because that's what you see, right? In a virtual hour or in a cocktail hour in a traditional event, you go and meet people, and the whole idea about events is, of course, to relax, but also to find other people, randomly connect. So it's a form of a relaxed speed networking, where you connect with people who might enjoy the same kind of jazz music that you're listening to together, and then with one click you exchange business cards, and you suddenly made a connection. Because what we're noticing is that in a traditional event, if you're not very outgoing, you'd be lucky to have 5 new random connections. A lot of people are shy, and et cetera, et cetera. But on the virtual platform, it's many times higher, based on these things, where you're more prone to exchange business cards and more prone to make new connections with the fellow attendees. So that's the specific outcome that you can expect of people bonding. So it won't be just a screen where a video is playing and you're watching it. The fact is, you need an overlay of attendees who are watching it, and for you to able to even see them live in small bubbles, almost like uh, the house party app, kind of that effect, and then be able to chat using the social wall or directly message the person. Yeah.
I just want to point out to our audience that on the right of the screen, you'll see a small bar, a bar with a few icons. There's the microphone icon, and there's a Q&A button. So if anybody has a question, I just want to invite them to just type in the question, and we'll address them as we go along. Just wanted to point it out in case you have questions. So there's a distinct chat menu, and then there's a Q&A menu. Typing the question in the Q&A menu will get it to our attention.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Anirban. So, quick question for Malcolm here. Malcolm, before we even go on to the presentation part of it, I said, I would like to know from you, and we all, I'm sure the audience would like to know from you. From the perspective of UK, do you see the events industry impacted any more differently than the other countries? Especially from a cultural standpoint, do you see that virtual events are being well received? What's your take?
Um, Not really. I think that across Europe, it's going to be very, very similar. The reactions are going to be very, very similar. I can't speak for other parts of the world particularly, because I don't really know the answer to that. And it is a really interesting question, Aditi, how different cultures will react in different ways to the virtual platforms. But I think in terms of the UK, we are now fairly used to doing webinars and Zooms and all sorts of different ways of communicating with people. And it's becoming the norm, and people don't mind doing it, actually. And in some ways, it's been quite a boon to not have to travel to go and see clients, because it takes up a lot of time in your day. And actually being able to sit down in front of a screen and talk to people is great. Culturally, I think the English are fairly reserved, and in a way, I guess Zoom meetings like this work because you don't have to actually do the whole meeting and greeting thing. And I think maybe the Brits are going to like that to a certain extent. And maybe that's not true of the Italians or the Americans or South Americans, where they like to get hands-on a lot more than we do. But certainly, I think that the cultural aspects of this whole thing are massively fascinating, and I'm going to be very interested in getting feedback from other parts of the world when we start doing more open virtual conferences.
Sid, I think you are doing some events for UK. So, what is the
Yeah.
type of reaction that you're seeing when you're doing events or partnering
Yeah,
with
no,
organizers in Europe?
it's sort of similar. There's no difference from. I think we work in 4 countries. Singapore, India, UK, and of course over here in the United States. And we don't see. I mean, at the moment, Singapore is the only one which has really opened up. I mean, you don't even feel
Right.
that there was a lockdown or a circuit breaker, as they call it. So Singapore has somehow it just feels normal. Very few people are wearing masks, and or restaurants are open and things like that. But that's an exception because they've been able to put certain classes of workers in a contained area. But yeah, we are seeing overall it's a solid performance, and we're really lucky and fortunate and grateful that in these times when many people are struggling to get new customers, we're able to sign up, and it's good that at a personal level, I'm again echoing from what Malcolm said. I'm actually happy I'm not traveling. I've traveled so much, and I've traveled all my life to an extent that it became a body need to travel. It became, you had to travel, and then you just need to travel. And the fact that I'm in one location for a long time is actually helping personally for me to focus almost 90% of my time on the product side, which is what I really enjoy. So yeah, all round good, all round good.
Sounds good, Sid. Thanks for that. Sid, I think we can proceed to the next part of the presentation, which would be a demo of how E2M on air works and the
Sure.
details that you'd like to show us. So, over to you.
Yeah. So I'll not take too much time. Can you see my screen, Aditi? I think you
Yes,
can, right?
yes.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, how much time do we have? I don't want to go over time. 15 minutes or 10 minutes? How much time?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, let the questions come in. If there's any questions, if there are any comments, please feel free to ask any sort. And essentially, what I'm showing is sort of tips or suggestions on if you want to host your virtual event. What are the things we've learned, and that's really the topic here. So one of the things, of course, is the fact that video is essentially at the heart of virtual events, because without video you already had tons of platforms, from mobile apps to other kinds of tools and technologies and polling solutions and Q&A solutions, and which helped you drive engagement. But video is really the key differentiator, and it's many forms. As I said, it's not just webinar, it's one-to-one, many-to-many, one-to-many, and we'll discuss that. And essentially what we are seeing in terms of hybrid is going forward to a future where you're trying to create a digital twin for your in-person events. So the top 10, I'll skip all these salesy slides. Yeah, so this is what you're seeing right now. I think this is, of course, the classic webinar format. It still remains very important, but as I said, there are many events we are doing right now as I speak where they don't even have the webinar format. So this is one of the formats. It's important. The way we are adding value to this is, of course, in the next month we're releasing an on-screen poll. So the poll just comes right in front. A trivia comes right in front. There's a business card exchange. There's also the ability to pull in an attendee right into the video experience. So not just asking questions from Q&A in terms of typing, but actually pulling them inside like a video experience. So we're already working on those, and those kind of things will be launched. And what you'll see is that there are so many subtle differences between this and a traditional webinar platform that we've had clients coming back and saying, can we just use it for even webinars? So very thrilled by that. Of course, that's one part of the whole solution. And it's really an essential. So first thing is definitely you should evaluate whether you need this and how you should program your events around this. And this roundtable actually is my favorite, and it's probably the most popular. So we are finding clients using roundtables in different formats. Like for example, they have sponsored roundtables. You can see architects, Kangen Water. These are sponsored roundtables. You also have general purpose, like something on solar energy. So you have general purpose roundtables. You have sponsored roundtables. Even for example, we are seeing event planners selling roundtables. So they get a celebrity domain expert who's hosting the table, and they have a one-on-one. So imagine someone of the caliber. Say in the UK you have Richard Branson. In the US you might have Warren Buffett, or in the showbiz, let's say you have Kim Kardashian, or I don't know if I'm just taking names here, but we've seen our event planners selling these roundtables as a celebrity host, and then they're having a one-to-one. You're also seeing a situation where one attendee is only pre-mapped to one roundtable, so that when the general session ends, they automatically get into the roundtable. So it's like an auto flow. They automatically get into the roundtable. So we are seeing this being used in many, many formats, and we're also very amazed at the amount of time that the attendees are spending on this. So, we did this one event for BNI where we saw that, the event had finished at about 5:30, but the attendees were still using the roundtables till 10:30 in the evening. And that was absolutely amazing, the fact that attendees, and I would invite everybody to join us, at least just to see how it works, so that you can, so after this, please join us on the roundtables. You can see in the menu option, and just experience being part of the roundtables. The expo, of course, I think most events, at least business events, have either a side expo with a main conference, or it might be the other way around, where you have like in the case of CES, for example, or similar scale exhibitions, where you have the predominantly an expo and a side conference. But no matter what, a visual lobby and a visual expo is really adds engagement. We just having a list just doesn't help. What you want to do is drive I think the entire purpose of an expo is to drive interest from people that you don't know. That's I think 80% of the objective of any trade show booth. You're trying to drive an interest from people that you've not met before. So having this kind of an experience really helps. We of course have the option to fall back and just have listings, but we highly recommend this kind of a format. And I'm going a little fast, so if please feel free to put in your clarifications on the Q&A. So one big thing about, you would see a lot of virtual events, like for example the Apple virtual event that happened recently, the Developers Summit. They actually were pre-recorded. So you see a nice background to it. You see like the PowerPoint or the video playing behind the speaker, and a lot of effects. So they are pre-recorded. Your entertainment could be pre-recorded, but they are streamed as live. And this requires a different set of server infrastructure, because when it's streaming live, it's only available when you access it, right? It's only for that duration. You cannot fast forward, you cannot rewind. But the thing is that the moment we see the FOMO effect, or fear of missing out effect, that when it's live, it drives more traffic, it drives more attendance. And if it's a consumer event, you can also simultaneously stream it on YouTube or Facebook Live. So that's really a strategy in terms of video that you could adopt. This shows you an example. This video was pre-recorded, was streamed live, and there was a text widget, donation widget. So our stage allows you to put a widget at the bottom, where in this case you could see all the people who were donating by texting to this number. And this was alternating. So this is again that video continued, but you saw that these were actually the selfies that were sent out by the attendees, and they were being streamed along with the main presentation video. Again, setting up a lobby, like for example, what happens in a traditional webinar kind of thing is you just get a link and you write in. I think the lobby experience is really important. One is you need to give sponsors their due. You need, if someone is early, you may need to make sure that there's a music that greets them. You need to make sure they can do other things, like for example, being part of a social wall and getting into a conversation with attendees versus just you know going right into a session. So a lobby is really important, and again, you can have one of those or something like this which tries to mimic a hotel, a traditional experience, because a lot of people who are attending events, they understand this kind of a layout. So either or, two kinds of lobby experiences could be used. And again, when you're having a booth, uh, you must add a, a video element to it, because just having the booth and downloading brochures or watching their canned video is not good enough. You need to make sure that you can actually get into a video conversation with the booth staff, and that sort of brings the whole real world perspective. And as you're having a conversation with the booth staff, you can seamlessly exchange business cards. Of course, it's digitally, so he or she gets an email, you get an email, and the lead is captured. And in case, for example, the boot staff is not available, you need to make sure that you have a callback experience available so that you can schedule a meeting for later and not lose that. So I think from a virtual perspective, the exhibitors really enjoy the fact that they're just not getting name cards. They're actually they're getting specific meetings out of the experience. And based on what we've done till date, we are seeing almost a 50-50. So out of 100 leads, we are seeing 50% meetings and 50% name cards, which is massive, because getting meetings straight away from a booth is really not very easy. And as a exhibitor, as a long-term exhibitor, I can tell you that. I think most exhibitors, especially B2B, they want a meeting, they want to speak to the lead, but they often get a business card and say, let's connect, right? That's really takes a long time. It's very unproductive. There's a lot of chance of slipping out on the leads, but having the ability to book a meeting right there is really valuable for the exhibitors and their investment. Going quickly into the agenda now, one thing we recommend, especially, you can see that this event, for example, is 3 days. Having the ability to have personal agendas or customized agendas. Now, these agendas could be selected by the event planner, let's say in case of an employee conference from the HR or the division head, or it could be based on the kind of tickets you've bought. But it's important to know that, this is my personal agenda, and then having a companion mobile app to drive the reminder process for the personal agenda. Because if you're having a medium-sized event, you're bound to get multiple tracks working at the same time. And even then, you're not expected to be at the event for the entire 8-10 hours. You want to make sure that if you fancy a specific entertainment, a specific speaker session, a specific exhibitor, you keep coming back. And so having that personal agenda is really valuable. So this was something really interesting, from a mobile app perspective, that, initially in the April-May timeframe, the 100%, the need was a desktop. People said, why would we ever need a mobile app? And at that moment, I think most of the events were going on for 2 to 3 hours. But right now, we are seeing the virtual events almost mimic the in-person event in terms of the timeline, in terms of the duration. And the mobile app now is actually making a resurgence because it helps people stay connected even when they are not on their desk. And it reminds them, it helps them to be a part of the conversations, whether it's a poll, whether it's a Q&A, whether it's a social wall. So if you're having an event that is more than 4 hours long, again, a valuable tip is to make sure that there's a companion mobile app for that. And this is another example why mobile apps would be useful, of course, for notifications and making sure you're coming back. We discussed this very briefly. We're finding this more often. We are finding people doing some form of an entertainment at the beginning, some form of entertainment at the end. And as I said, there are a lot of online sources where you can engage with performers globally. get them to record content for you and then stream it live, based from the module where you can stream content live. So it's something to evaluate if you're having an event where you know engagement is important to you. This is one other recommendation. And finally, I hope I'm on time. Yeah, almost on time. Is the fact that you know I think we are used to automating the follow-up process in terms of sales. So you would keep sending out mailers saying sign up. You would do retargeting ads on Facebook or YouTube. Driving traffic back to your event. However, reminding them for existing registered people to come back, and even during the event to have segmented alerts. So, for example, if somebody has not been to the expo floor, then sending out a notification to all those people who've not seen the expo floor, saying that, hey, you've not seen the expo floor, why don't you look at this? Or if somebody has not even tried the roundtable, then you send them a segmented alert. Or if somebody has not been to any session, but he's spending all his time in the expo or the roundtable, then you can drive traffic there. And it's absolutely amazing. This is almost like, this whole virtual events industry is like the Netflix experience where, 10 years ago or whatever, 15 years ago, nobody thought that, watching movies on your desktop would be at all an option. And now it's probably the only option. Virtual events are sort of in that category, and as you can see from some of the Netflix alerts that keep sending you that, hey, this is a movie for you, this is a TV show for you, reminders. This is advanced AI, but having this capability to invite people back to the event just adds to the whole engagement, no matter what kind of event you're doing. So this is essentially part of that platform. Zoe is part of the E2M platform. It's an optional module where you set up cadences, and you can, based on real-time behavior. So if they've not done something, then you can say, if they've not logged in, it's been 3 hours, you can say that the event has started, please join in. And this is all automated. Really useful to drive in the traffic. So that's it, Aditi, from my side. Thank you. I hope we were on time, and I hope it was useful.
Absolutely, Sid. That's quite informative, and thanks for running us through the details of the platform. I have an interesting question coming up. I'll ask Malcolm quickly before I let him go. Malcolm, the question is, what could be the topmost risk areas of virtual event upon in-person event? I mean, as compared to in-person events, uh, what would be risky? What would be the risk areas when you do virtual? Do you want to share some bits on that?
Yeah, I think that's one common thing that comes through from all our clients is they are a little bit nervous about live presentations. And I think that for them, the solution to that is to pre-record them, but have the presenter live to be able to answer questions after the presentation has run. That seems to be a common thing. Is like, what happens if something goes wrong during the live presentation? What will I do then? And what if their internet goes down? And that seems to be the common, most fearful item on these presentations.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, alluding to my session where you stream pre-recorded as live is so important, with the ability to have the engagement Q&A. That's a great point. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Malcolm. Thanks for sharing that. And Sid, I think we've had some questions. Okay, let me just check if there's. So I think we've answered the questions, and we will take the questions offline as well. So guys, feel free to drop a line to us, and we will take it up post the webinar. Thank you, Malcolm, so much for coming onto the show. I will now request all of you to move on to the next session, which is roundtable. So if you all can just join in just to get an understanding of how roundtables work.
Yeah, I mean, this is really a open, no, casual get together on the roundtables, and I think even for 5 minutes, it would give everyone a perspective that now all the attendees can get a voice, and you'll find that on the first tab under roundtables. Join any of them, and let's have a chat for a few minutes, and then I know we don't have entertainment for you tonight, or this afternoon, but we promise when we have a larger event we will. Um, so yeah, I'll see everybody in the round table. Please join us there, experience that, and then go. And again, thanks Malcolm for joining in. And if you could spend a few more minutes on the round tables, that'll be absolutely fantastic.
Okay. No worries.
Yeah, see you there. Thanks everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining, guys. Please come onto the